Welcome everyone to the webinar. For those of you who don't know me, I am your host and moderator. I'm Dr. Lauren Levine. We got a great turnout tonight, right around 500 people registered. That's because we have a great speaker and a great topic. As always, I hope that everyone is staying healthy and safe out there. I commend you for being here this evening and continuing your dental education. I only want to speak for a couple of minutes. I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping. We want to make sure that we leave time for Dr. Ramos for as long as he'd like to speak, as well as to leave time for questions. Many of you have been here multiple times in the past. Some of you, maybe it's your first time here. The format's always the same. Our speaker will usually talk for 50 to 60 minutes, give or take, and then we leave time at the end for questions. When we have 500 people on the call, we obviously can't do verbal questions. So all of you on your screen have a GoToWebinar control panel. You can just type in your questions as you think about them. We do our best to get to all questions that come up during the webinar. Sometimes, I never know. Sometimes we get 3 questions. Sometimes we get 103 questions. But I'm going to do my very best to make sure that we get everyone's questions answered. A couple of things. First off, the webinar is recorded, as are all my webinars. You will be sent an email with a link to download the recording at your convenience. That usually goes out within a day or two. So don't worry if you can't make it to the end or you get distracted. We are recording everything. During the webinar, Dr. Ramos is going to show some of the products and systems that he uses, a few which are exclusive to GoldenDent. I've been working with Kurt and GoldenDent for well over 10 years. I thank them always for their sponsorship of the webinars. They're the ones that are bringing in these amazing speakers and developing the content and the topics. They also handle the CE. I always get a number of emails after the webinar about CE, so I'm going to try to repeat it a couple times this evening. Basically, there's nothing you need to do other than stay. There's no quiz, there's no registration, no test, anything like that. At the end of the webinar, I send the logs over to Kurt, and they see when you logged on, when you logged off. As long as you were here for the bulk of the webinar, I think it's like 60, 70%, whatever that case is, you will get a CE certificate. If you only logged on for like 6 minutes, obviously they can't do that under those circumstances. That takes a little bit longer because, as I said, that we do have 500 people registered tonight. So give that about a week or so. They oftentimes can get it out by Thursday or Friday this week, but don't be surprised if it takes into early next week as well. So with that out of the way, I am thrilled to welcome Dr. Carlos Ramos. He graduated with a degree in dentistry from the State University of Londrina in 1987 in Brazil, and then received a scholarship to study in Japan. He finished his residency in endodontics at the University of Sao Paulo, Brazil in 1990, where he also attended a program in endodontics and received a Master of Science degree in 1993, then completed a PhD program 4 years later, the same year, which was 1997, that he published his first book. From 1995 to 2012, he worked as a professor of endodontics at the State University of Londrina, where he coordinated the endodontic sector. During this time, he published 3 books and wrote more than a dozen chapters for various endodontics books. All this has been accomplished while working part-time exclusively as an endodontic specialist at his private practice from 1987 to 2012. He was granted 5 international patents, which have brought different devices to the world marketplace that use these patented technologies. He's an international speaker in endodontics, presenting lectures, hands-on workshops, and conferences worldwide each year. Dr. Ramos was previously the Clinical Affairs Endodontics Manager at Ultradent and is currently the Senior Director of Clinical Research and Global Education for Woodpecker and KP Dental. So Dr. Ramos, we are thrilled to have you here and looking forward to the presentation this evening.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, GoldenDent, for providing us this opportunity to talk with this very, very selected audience today. As you can see, the name of the lecture is The Clean Paradox, and you are going to understand why this name on this specifically topic and makes a lot of sense while we are going forward with this. I presented this one in different places this year. It's a pretty new lecture, and is kind of a more to think about how we approach our root canal instrumentation, irrigation, and process, cleaning process on endodontics. So I proudly finalized this year. I'm finalizing this year, showing this in different venues like the AE, IDEX in Egypt, Paris, in Brazil, in Peru, in Colombia as well. Plus, I'm going to show this lecture in 2 weeks in Canada and also in Boston. Without any other adus, let's go directly to the point. So the instrumentation time back in the day when I graduated was 40 minutes to do a procedure, 40 minutes to do a root canal instrumentation in a molar, for example. And in this meantime, sodium hypochlorite stayed inside the canal for way longer than nowadays. That's the main reason that in the past we had more volume, because you have to stop your instrumentation while you start to be tired doing your instrumentation. Hand instrumentation is very, very complex to the point that you have to stop a little bit, your fingers start to hurt, and then after that, you start to do some sort of a stretching your fingers with your syringe and cannula. So not only you have more time of contact of sodium hypochlorite inside the canal, but you have more volume and you refresh this liquid all the time doing this 40 minutes, 45 minutes, 30 minutes. It depends on the complexity of the anatomy, but average was 40 minutes to make your hand instrumentation. I'm not talking about any other thing, but just instrumentation. Nowadays, with the engine-driven files, reciprocation or rotation doesn't matter, but your time of instrumentation is so short that one of the solutions for the irrigation was to raise the concentration of sodium hypochlorite to 3%, 4%, 5%, nowadays 8%, 10%. I don't know what will be the limit of concentration of sodium hypochlorite, but this is the fact. The fact is that we create a solution. Don't get me wrong, I don't want to go back to hand instrumentation. I'm just saying that in that time, one of the good things with the hand instrumentation was the fact that you stay more time with your irrigation. Volume was very important. Your refreshing was very important. Nowadays, you just soak the canal with a 2-3 ml, max 5 ml of irrigation, and then you finish the job very, very quickly. It's not a coincidence that if you see in this editorial in Endodontic Journal, Endodontic International Endodontic Journal from 2022, this guy, Christos Botsiukis, this is one of the most respectable authors in the field of irrigation, and he stated that with a lot of proof, scientific proof, that all the publications in irrigation, they rose the number of publications exponentially after 2010, when exactly was the time of the more acceptance of the rotary and reciprocation files by the endodontists, by the clinicians as well. So that's why we see a lot of papers trying to create a solution for something that is not naturally or anatomically endodontics, but it is something that we make inside the canal. So if you see the definition of debris, for example, are solid particles produced during mechanical instrumentation. So it's not a part of the endodontic anatomy. It's not like the pulp tissue or like odontoblasts or like fibroblasts or dentin or whatever. Is something that we come with when we are doing our instrumentation. And the same apply to the smear layer. Smear layer is this layer composed of everything: dentin particles, organic tissue, pulp tissue, bacteria, sodium hypochlorite, EDTA, everything like amalgam inside the canal. And always these two parts, debris and smear layer, are being pressured during our instrumentation. Not to mention that during our instrumentation, we touch dentin walls in an average of 50–60% of the dentin walls in curved canals. And this is one of the studies from Saulius Druktinis from Lithuania, one of the studies showing that no matter what is the sequence that you are using, what matters the most is the final instrument that you are using. So that's why if you see the majority of the papers, especially with micro CT, before and after, will show you always this mix of red and green areas, meaning that you cannot touch all the dentin walls, leaving for your instrumentation to take care of these parts of the canal that you don't touch. Let me spotlight maybe these parts of the canal that you don't touch. So essentially, even with these new files, that is 3D files like XP Shaper, XP Finisher, all these files that has this proposal to touch all the walls and provoke a cleaning of these dentin walls, they are not able to do it. So unfortunately, I have to say, something happens here. Let's see. Okay. So, and what happens with these untreated parts? This is a paper from Dr. Siqueira, that is a friend from Brazil. I am from Brazil as well, even though I'm living here for 15 years now, American citizen, but also Brazilian. And this is Dr. Siqueira, one of the highlights of microbiology and odontology. He and his wife, Isabella Rosas, they both have more than, I don't know how many, but tons of papers showing exactly the same. What you leave inside the canal, what you leave smear layer or untouched areas, you are leaving bacteria inside the canal. But this is another thing. This is actually, to be honest with you, this is a paper from Frank Paquet and Matthias Ender. And this was the inspiration of this whole lecture today. So what happens when you are doing your instrumentation regarding the debris? And these gray areas here that you're seeing on Frank Paquet paper from 2009 shows you where you pack the debris. You pack the debris on the isthmus, on the lateral canals, on the apical area. So this is the real source, not source, but destiny of the debris that you provoke when you are doing instrumentation, especially when you stay more than 5 seconds inside the canal during your instrumentation. This is another paper from another good friend, Gustavo de Deus, from Brazil as well, showing all this gray area. So this is on eye. This is the amount of debris that you have right after your instrumentation. And when you do your first irrigation with sodium hypochlorite, you free some of the parts of the main canal, but it's still the debris is packed on isthmus and lateral canals as well. So with a lot of efforts and minutes of irrigation, plus a lot of volume of irrigation, you can come eventually on K here, you can come eventually on this situation, but look that you are not free of debris. This debris that was packed during your instrumentation and you cannot remove. So everybody wants clinical cases like this one from Hugo Bastos that use our technique. And as you can see, if you're freeing space on lateral canals, it means that you are doing a good job in terms of irrigation and cleaning. As well, in molars, if you free this area, especially on the apical area, and you can see that you are doing obturation, and believe me, all these obturations are not thermomechanical or thermal packing gutta percha, but it's just sealer and single cone technique. So all these are single cone technique, but you can see sealer going through the areas that is cleaned by your instrumentation irrigation. The same here from Luis Fernando Tomasinho from Brazil as well. This is my dream team, the people that use my techniques and equipments that we are fortunate to launch in the market. And of course, I have my cases as well, but it's kind of me showing my cases with my equipment and my developments is something that doesn't show very, very nice. So I always have people using and sending me clinical cases, and this is my dream team in Brazil. Luis Fernando is one of them. So as you can see in this case, if it is clean, the sealer went there without any super duper obturation technique. But what happens during your instrumentation? So if you stay more than 5 seconds, and this is a micro CT that I put in a CNC or in a 3D printer machine, and as you can see, there's an isthmus there on this premolar, and after 5 seconds, you can see definitely, easily, you can see where the debris start to be packed, apically and laterally. So even in a canal that is filled with irrigation, like this one is filled with liquid, after 5 seconds, what you can have is this debris that is more a fluid, more a gel, more a paste, or whatever you want to define. And especially when you use irrigation, you compress hydraulically this debris apically, like you can see in this model there. So this is a big problem during our instrumentation. And unfortunately, on Facebook, Instagram, social media, sometimes you can see this kind of video like this one of a retreatment being done, and without any concern on irrigation, on any concern of removing all this debris that not only you are removing with your file, fortunately you are removing with your file, but most of the debris is being packed on the areas that you want to clean. So why we are so dumb or stupid that we want to clean a canal, and the first thing that we do is to make a lot of dirty. That is the problem. That is the paradox that I'm talking about. So the big paradox for me is that we endodontists and clinicals and clinicians, that GPs that likes to do endo, in a way, when our intention is very good. So when we put our file inside the canal, you want to remove the bulk tissue. Can be vital pulp tissue, can be necrotic tissue, can be necrotic and infected tissue, can be also an old treatment that you have to do a re-intervention. But the fact is that, in a way, we are causing a big problem for ourselves. To clean all these areas is not very easy, as you can see. And this is so easy to create. This packing of debris is so easy to create. Is in seconds you can create this debris, packing this debris laterally or even apically, or even especially in lateral canals. So there are so many. This is another Dr. Gustavo de Deus, another paper showing the very same thing that I'm talking about. Not to mention, and this is Marco Versiani, another friend. I'm very proud to say that Marco was my student back in the day. This is a micro CT, one of the first micro CTs that Marco shared very nicely in his Blogspot website that is free for everybody to see his work. I was talking that my patents are free. Marco Versiani put all these images free to be studied by anybody. This is very beautiful. As you can see, the first image that we have there, of course, is the external part. right in the right image, you can see what you see in your X-ray. But if you see the sequence of images turning a little bit this image, you can see how complex is the canal, not only the mesial root with the mesial buccal mesial lingual, and something in between, like a big isthmus with a canal that is connecting with one mesial buccal with the mesial lingual, but the distal canal as well is not very easy to be done. So this is a sequence of files. Doesn't matter what sequence of files you're using. I have my sequence of files. By the way, I designed this one. But the matter of fact is that everybody comes here in webinars or lectures, hands-ons, and show you a sequence of files to be used, claiming that this sequence of files is better and no. Of course, there are some that makes more sense. I like always to use an artifice opener or an artifice shaper. I always like to finish, if it is possible, with a 3504. I don't like to finish with a 2506, honestly. But this is not the matter of today lecture. What is the matter is this one. So you can see the very same sequence, but with something different here. In the very beginning, you are going to start to clean this canal with ultrasonification and continuous irrigation. And then after that, while you use 5 seconds of your file, you have to use your irrigation back in the same way. And in the same way, this is called stepwise interoperative activation. And this is not my idea. This is Gianluca Plotino idea from Italy. So he's called SIA, stepwise interoperative activation. And this is what I want to show you and prove to you that is better. Everybody now that talks about irrigation shows how your irrigation can, with an open-ended cannula, can be harmful. Yes, you can clean a lot of the apical area, but eventually, not eventually, but most of times, you have some extrusion after the foramen area. And this is very complicated because it's not only the big extrusions, but micro extrusion leads to postoperative pain. And this is more than proved. Even with side port cannulas or sideways cannulas, like this side vented cannula, this is the famous Navitive 31 gauge from UltraDent. This is a very nice idea, and when they came with this, it shows a lot of safety on using this type of cannula. But the problem is safe, yes, but in front of the cannula, you don't have any cleaning, and usually you are 1, 2, 3 millimeters off the working length. So in this area of the working length, you are not going to clean anything. And by the way, this is just the most important part of the whole treatment, because after the apical third, you have the foramen, and the foramen is nothing but the window between what you do inside the canal versus what your patient will receive and will react over your treatment. If it is clean, that will be a good healing. If it is not clean, the healing will be not there. And not to mention that you have sodium hypochlorite, and you have to use sodium hypochlorite to dissolve tissue as well. This is a very interesting video that I did back in the day, just to show how long sodium hypochlorite takes without any activation, takes to dissolve tissue inside the canal. So as you can see, it's 32, almost 32, 33 minutes to dissolve all the tissue that I put inside this block, instrumented until a 3504. Of course, you don't have all this tissue normally and clinically, but it's just a parameter just for you to know that without any activation, sodium hypochlorite will take 3, 4, 5 times more, even more times to dissolve the whole tissue. So back to Dr. Batsiuk is again, he says on this editorial of endodontic practice in 2019, best irrigation solution would be pointless if the irrigation could not reach its targets in the root canal in insufficient amounts. So honestly, this summarizes everything that we have to do in terms of irrigation. It's not only using sodium hypochlorite or EDTA or dual rings or whatever you have in your clinic, in your office, in your portfolio, but the way that you deliver, this solution to all the areas without extrusion, plus the way that you activate this solution to enhance, to increase, to optimize its action. How can this irrigation can be boosted? This is another topic that is being talked and discussed in many different places. Every time that I go to lecture, there's at least 2 or 3 lectures talking about if laser or gentle wave or ultrasonics or sonic is better in what is the situation today. So we have sonic devices to activate liquid. We have ultrasonic devices. We have laser devices. We have also the so-called multisonic device that is gentle wave. The matter of fact is that we need to understand how these devices work. But I don't want to talk too much about the laser and gentle wave because in my opinion, and it's not only my opinion, but if you see the clinical cases and literature, these 2 devices are very nice technology to clean canals when you don't find the canals, or when you find the canals and you can pass 1 or 2 files inside the canal, like a number 15 or a number 20, or even a 2004 or something like that. So these devices, in my opinion, are very nice if you want to clean canals that is impossible to reach a 2504 plus, like a 3004, 3504. But in the day-to-day cases, if you are able to do your instrumentation at least in an MV2, for example, to a 2504, and MB, ML, or a distal canal 3004 plus, then honestly, there's no evidence that these devices are better than ultrasonification, for example. So that said, if you see the results in terms of the papers showing the action of ultrasonic in your left is the action of ultrasonic in your right, it is a video as well. It's not stop it. You can see some movement there. And eventually you can see a movement, punctual movement of the liquid. These are the action of the laser, right? So ultrasonics can do a very good job. And as you can see, the tip of ultrasonics on your left side, on the right canal, you can see the tip of the ultrasonics working very well there. So if the tip of the ultrasonics is free to work, then you have movement, then you have acoustic streaming. So in the laser, when you cannot do your job in terms of enlargement of the canal, then you have to use laser or gentle wave or whatever system that can be used on the pulp chamber, for example. This is Dr. Moore from Belgium, and this is another guy who has a lot of papers and studies on irrigation, and he's very keen on lasers. Even though he's very keen on lasers, if you see this publication, his conclusion was laser-activated irrigation regimens perform similarly in terms of reduction of debris accumulated after root canal preparation as ultrasonics. So this is the kind of paper that I respect a lot because I know Dr. Moore and I know that he loves laser. He has a big lab in Belgium just about lasers, but in this publication, in this specifically methodology that he used, he came with the same results using laser or using ultrasonics. And again, the secret is only because if you have the right enlargement, 2504 plus 3004 and 3504 enlargement, ultrasonics will give you the same results of the laser and the same results of the gentle wave. There are sonic activation as well. And honestly speaking, this is one of the papers that I found the best definition of sonic activation. So sonic irrigation differs from ultrasonic irrigation because it operates in lower frequencies. So those frequencies will create acoustic streaming that will be lower, and with a lower acoustic streaming, you have less shear effect of the liquid against the damping walls. So with a small shear effect, with a lower shear effect, you cannot clean the damping walls properly as you can do when you have a higher streaming, acoustic streaming effect leading to a better shear effect. The shear effect is the action of the liquid against the walls physically, not chemically. So it's kind of a wave against the rocks on the beach. So that wave 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 is always going to the rock, cleaning the surface of the rock, and again and again and again. This is exactly the same analogy for the acoustic streaming effect, but instead of 1 and 2 and 3 waves per second, you have 29, 30, or 31,000 waves per second going, to clean these damping walls when you use ultrasonics. So if you see the evaluations, if you see the papers regarding the sonic devices, and this is, again, if you see these names, Versluis, these guys from the Netherlands, you can definitely believe in their conclusions, because these guys are the fathers of irrigation, the modern irrigation, in terms of studies, in terms of publications. So this is the kind of a oscillation that you have in time in terms of when you use the sonic devices. And when you use ultrasonic devices, this is a totally different story. So ultrasonic activation removes more denting debris than sonic activation because the frequency that you use, so you are using 30,000 hertz, then instead of 160, 190 hertz. So 30 kilohertz is 30,000 against 160, 190 hertz. So it's kind of a way bigger frequency that allows you in this kind of a situation to provoke more acoustic streaming. Not only that, the oscillation amplitude of the tips in the sonic devices are 1 millimeter. There are some that is 1.3 millimeters in a canal that is 0.30. So 1 millimeter in the 0.30 will make this tip touching all the time the root canal wall. And this, like in the conclusion of the paper, actually this is in the discussion of the paper, this inhibits free oscillation of the sonic tip, reducing the efficiency streaming of the irrigant and consequently the activation of the irrigant. So sometimes you see a demonstration of these sonic devices in a cup of water, and whoever is doing the demonstration shows you a lot of bubbles, a lot of movement in a cup of water. Of course, if you compare with ultrasonic, this will be more movement because this tip is free inside the water. But inside the canal, this tip will be not free. Not to mention that cavitation, that is the formation of bubbles that will explode, releasing energy, releasing ozone, that is antibacterial. This doesn't happen with the sonic devices. As you can see in this paper published in 2014 from Ricardo Macedo, that is a Brazilian, but he is still in the Netherlands with the group of Anders Lewis and Paul Vesseling that is retired right now. But as you can see here, the sonic tip doesn't provoke any in the left side of the graphic, any cavitation. But ultrasonic tips produce a lot of cavitation inside the canal. So no cavitation was detected around sonic oscillation instruments driven at their highest frequency, because their high frequency doesn't allow to do that. So we have this passive ultrasonic irrigation, passive because it's supposedly not to cut dentin while you're doing your activation. And I say supposedly because if you see the papers, you're going to see a lot of action of these metal tips. So in this paper from the same people, and here you see the picture of Dr. Vesseling. So the induced acoustic streaming leads to jets of irrigant that are directed toward the root canal. These jets are responsible for the removal of the dentin debris by creating this shear effect that I told you, that is this physical passage of the liquid towards all the dentin walls, cleaning, like you take your hose and you clean your car with a jet of water. That is exactly the same action, but with thousands and thousands and thousands of repetition per second. So this lateral cleaning effect of the ultrasonic file, this is very, very important. And this is the main thing that happens. Not only that, but if you see other papers from the same people, they show that in curved canals, after the tip of the file, you have 3 millimeters action of these waves provoked, these acoustic streaming waves provoked by ultrasonic tips. So we have to understand that there are some people that say things without any proof. In this particular case, not only they are showing that it's 3 millimeters in front of the tip, but they say the root canal curvature had no influence on the irrigant flow. So if you use wisely your ultrasonic tip with refreshing the liquid and the right tip, with the right ultrasonic device, you can create a vortex of irrigation in front of the tip while you're doing lateral cleaning as well. And this is my lab back in the day in UltraDent, and we ran this camera that is a high definition, high speed camera, just to show how the tip of the file can vibrate and moves things around. This is very interesting. This footage costs a lot of money because it's not easy to, it's not cheap to rent these kind of cameras. But as you can see here, you can see the tip of the file doing the vibration. One of the things that we have to understand is that the environment that we work is inside the canal, and the amplitude that we have is very, very limited. So if you oscillate the tip, ultrasonic tip on the air, you'll have a lot of amplitude like you're seeing here, but inside the canal, you are going to be limited by the dentin walls, right? So the amplitude is very important, because if you are using a metal tip like this one and you are using a high amplitude like 1.009 or something like that, you can create some problems inside the canal. So that's why I prefer smooth tips. So not only I prefer the polymer tip, but I prefer a smooth tip as well that provokes the same effect as you can see on the metal as well. When you do your activation, the same amount of pulp tissue, I put the same amount of pulp tissue in this same block that is 3504 instrumented, And as you can see, when you activate the liquid, instead of 32 minutes to dissolve the same amount of pulp tissue, this is fresh extracted third molars. I removed the pulp tissue, I weighed it, and then I put inside the canal. So as you can see, when you do your activation, you are going to use to dissolve all the tissue, the same tissue that you dissolve in 32 minutes, now you're going to dissolve in 8 minutes. And if you do concomitant irrigation or continuous irrigation, this will be in 4 minutes, not 8 minutes. So it's very important to understand that not only you create a better shear effect, cleaning the debris, but you optimize, you catalyze the chemical reaction of the sodium hypochlorite. Problem is, most of people, the majority of people are using metal tips like IriSafe or like K-files. The problem is these tips start to work against the dentin wall. So it's not a passive ultrasonic irrigation, but it's an active ultrasonic irrigation. And this is the way that the tip, unfortunately, will start to beat this dentin wall, deform the dentin wall, as you can see here in this micro CT. And not only that, but if this tip is beating all the time and this has a file shape, what happens is you create debris. That is the problem. In this very interesting paper from Augusto Cato, published in Journal of Endodontics 2020, you can see that after instrumentation, they cleaned the canal. They were 100% sure that that canal was clean, and then they start to do different types of irrigation activation to see what happens, right? And what happens was that although they were trying to clean the canal with ultrasonic tips, they figure out that they are having debris inside. So that's why they put the title of the paper, can irrigant agitation lead to the formation of smear layer? They conclude yes. And they conclude that the metallic insert, that is the metallic tip, are the worst in terms of formation of smear layer after the canal is clean. Look, they were not doing instrumentation and trying to clean the canal. They had a clean canal and they were using the different types of activation to see what happens. And they figure out that after using files or IriSafes, metal tips on ultrasonic irrigation and activation, they were creating smear layer, not cleaning smear layer. Not to mention that these tips can lead to some ledge as well. So finally, I don't want to just to convince you that metal tips are not the best solution for your ultrasonic devices, but look this metal tip here. What happens, and this is Dr. Fausto Vitorino, he sent to me and said, sometimes this tips breaks inside the canal. So it's not as difficult as an instrument to remove it, but sometimes can create some problems, and at least you are going to waste 10, 15 minutes to remove this kind of thing. So one of my creations was the polymer tip. So this is a called polymer PEEK tip. PEEK is polyether etheric ketone. So it's a polymer, it's not plastic. All polymers are plastic, not all plastic are polymers, as you know. So this is a high performance polymer that the fusion temperature is 366 degrees Celsius. So it's very, very difficult to work with in terms of molding, but we were able to mold these tips with a tip of 25 and a taper of 0.25. It's very easy to install. You just have to have this connector. This connector you just buy once. Of course, you sterilize everything, autoclave everything, and then you install like I showed, very easy to install. You have actually you have options on length. I always prefer the E74, that is this one, 25 with 21 millimeters. It's 21, but remember that you have more 6 millimeters here, 7 millimeters here of the connector, so you have 28 millimeters to use in your clinical cases. As you can see, this is a beautiful footage that I did. I was very, very lucky to show the nodes and anti-nodes of this tip. And always in the ending is an open node, as you can see. So in the end, you have an open node there, but you can see the nodes and anti-nodes very easily on this one. Remember that sonic, there's no nodes and anti-nodes, right? In sonic devices, you just have one big anti-node here, and the tip is oscillating in a big amplitude. This is another paper from Dr. Giulio Gavini and my friend Eduardo Akisui, showing that peak tips has exactly the same frequency, resonance, vibration of metal. That's why I use PIC, because PIC is one polymer that has exactly the same performance in terms of ultrasonic vibration that stainless steel. So in a clinical situation, what you have is you can use continuous irrigation if you want. In this case, the doctor is using continuous irrigation with distilled water just to flush the canal and clean this canal. And in here, as you can see, we are going to use the polymer tip after your instrumentation. So 5 seconds of instrumentation, and then you come with your polymer tip and you remove all the smear layer. Look how much smear layer, how much debris we provoke inside this canal. Even though I'm working with this canal totally filled with irrigation, but it's a lot of debris. And when you use the polymer tip with ultrasonification, while you are doing your instrumentation, you can clean all this debris very easily in beautiful, beautiful, beautiful use. This is one of the canals. This is the second one. Another thing that I want you to see very carefully is how the polymer tip, can do all the curvatures as well. So not to mention that you have the same resonance of metal, but you have these polymer tips are way, way more flexible than metal tips. But never use, please, never use polymer tips dry, right? Because they will melt. The resonance is the same of metal. The tip will increase temperature so high that the tip will melt. So if you are going to use polymer tips, always with irrigation or always with the canal filled with irrigant. Do never use these tips dry. So as you can see here, the tip is in this canal, but it's cleaning all the lateral canal, because if the tip is free, very little free, but if the tip is free, the lateral acoustic streaming will provoke this cleaning. And as you can see, you can do double curvature. Even this small curvature on the apical part, you can do it with the polymer tip. This is a very nice video. Finally, just to summarize a little bit this topic here, I want to show you that I want to highlight that this polymer tip needs to be used with continuous irrigation, can be water in the reservoir. You can use sodium hypochlorite in the reservoir, but please do not use sodium hypochlorite more than 2%, and never use sodium hypochlorite from the supermarket, Clorox or something. This industrial sodium hypochlorite has stabilizers, and these stabilizers will form crystals in the solenoid valve and will glue the solenoid valve, and you lose the solenoid valve of your device. So you can buy from Vista, you can buy from GoldenDent, you can buy from whoever ultradent, but use always a good source of sodium hypochlorite and not more than 2% on the reservoir. Right after you use, fill with distilled water and purge all the system. So if you want to preserve your ultrasonic device, you have to do it this way. Do not leave sodium hypochlorite there. Do not use Clorox. Actually, from a regulatory standpoint, we cannot use industrial sodium hypochlorite because it's not for human use, but do not use any industrial sodium hypochlorite and just buy sodium hypochlorite for a good source. Or you can use distilled water, or you can use this type of a syringe as well. This is from Bressler. It's called TotalVec and was designed by my good friend NaOCl. And while you're doing your irrigation, dripping sodium hypochlorite on the pulp chamber, this system connected with your vacuum system will drain all the excess while you're doing your activation. So this is another thing that you can do. Refreshment of ultrasonic activation of sodium hypochlorite solution. After a cumulative increase of its reaction rate was found. So there's tons of papers. This is from a new kitchen. Tons of papers showing that when you refresh sodium hypochlorite while you're doing your activation, is better. This is another one from Dr. Purificación from Spain, showing that the syringe in blue not even try to clean lateral canals, but look, continuous ultrasonic irrigation, you have a big percentage of lateral canals cleaned just using continuous ultrasonic irrigation. Passive ultrasonic irrigation without refreshing, you have some of the lateral canals, but when you use continuous irrigation, it's way better. So this is the protocol that I want you guys to use. This is regarding the protocol. You start using your ultrasonic device before your instrumentation, right after scouting the canal. Remove the bulk of the tissue, especially distal canals, palatal canals, premolars, central incisors, canines, or even big mesobuccal-mesolingual canals. You can start with this, and by starting with this, you are going to remove the bulk of the tissue. Can be inflamed pulp tissue, can be necrotic pulp tissue, can be anything that you want to remove. This is the principle of endodontics. The principle of endodontics is to clean the canals, and this is right after you use. Look, in this canal that I didn't do any instrumentation here. I didn't make any instrumentation here, but as you can see, I cleaned 80% of the stuff that was inside the canal just by using my ultrasonic irrigation. So this is the protocol that I want you guys to use. Okay, so this is 50 minutes right now. We can do this again, and then I will do the rest of the part, the rest of this. If you guys like it, we can do another round of this lecture, and then I will talk about instrumentation and apex locators and working length determination and instrumentation, and even we can talk a little bit about alteration. But just to show you guys some of the clinical cases from the group in Brazil that are using this technique all the time, and they are very kind to send me the clinical cases. This is from Dr. Hugo Bastos, and one of the best endodontists that I ever met in my life. This guy is a magician. He's not an endodontist. Look at his clinical cases, are beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. This is Dr. K. Fabiano Pereira, a very old friend of mine, and he's not only a very good endodontist, but he's an extremely good professor as well. Look, this very difficult clinical case with these calcified canals, and calcified canals are always a challenge. And this is a 2504, and this is a 3004, but eventually he used the irrigation in this situation to create this clean effect of the canals. Another calcified canal from the same doctor, okay? And again, he was able to clear the path of this big, huge lateral exit of the foramen and creating a path for the cleaning. You create a path for your alteration as well. Another case from Dr. Douglas Cortez, very good friend of mine. He's a professor at the same university that I used to be back in the day in Londrina in Brazil, and a very good endodontist. Another clinical case. This is from Dr. Ernesto Cuenca in Seattle, and he is showing the big periodontal lesion and apical lesion as well. And after 6 months, you have the healing of both lesions. Dr. Samuel Reis, another Brazilian endodontist, very, very nice. He's a very good professor as well, he and his wife. And then, again, you can see lateral canals being alterated. Luis Fernando Tomazinho, same thing. Again, Hugo Bastos, same thing. More of Hugo Bastos, more of Luis Fernando Tomazinho. Another from Dr. K. Pereira, another clinical case showing that sometimes you cannot control the sealer when you have a very clean canal. Dr. Marco Furtado, another endodontist, friend and a very good clinician as well, showing the results of his clinical cases. This is a very common nowadays, fracture of cuspid, right? So all these clinical cases are so difficult because you have to create a situation for isolation that is very, very difficult, but he was able to do it. And then you have the root canal, and not only that, but as you can see, a very good clean root canal here. This is my team in Brazil, my very good friends. This is last month, actually, in the Brazilian Endodontics Congress that I was very fortunate to meet all my friends there. Okay. So I think that this is it, my friends. Can you open for questions right now?
We'll do the questions in a couple of minutes, and I would encourage people, if you have questions, this is a great time to start asking them. As a reminder, we don't do verbal questions. We have like 500 people registered. So on your screen, you have to go to Webinar Control Panel. You can just go ahead and type in your questions. We'll get them in a couple of minutes. I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar that the webinar was recorded. So that should go out sometime in the next few days. For the CE credits, as long as you've been here for at least 60–70% of the webinar, you will be sent a CE certificate that usually can take up to a week. Oftentimes they get it out by Friday, but it may be a few days after that. GoldenDent handles that as far as the CE certificates. There's nothing you need to do. No registration, no quiz, nothing. When you log out, we know when you logged in, when you logged out, and they'll be able to issue the certificates based on that. I had mentioned that we don't do these webinars without sponsorship, and we are thrilled that GoldenDent brought in Dr. Ramos. Many of you know GoldenDent because of the physics forceps. They also have a lot of endodontic supplies as well. So with that out of the way, I want to turn it over to Kurt Lawler, and he will talk a little bit about that before we then move on to the Q&A session. So Kurt, it's all you.
All right, Lauren, I appreciate it. I'm just, did you send me the link to show my screen? Yeah, here we go. Apologize.
Here we go.
All right. Again, my name is Kurt Lawler. I'm from GoldenDent. We're based here in Detroit, Michigan. As Lauren mentioned, we started with the physics forceps for extractions, but we've evolved over the years, and we have quite a few endodontic products now for saving teeth and not just doing extraction. So we continue to focus on simple, predictable, and unconventional products. And some of the products that were shown this evening for ultrasonics, we do have from Woodpecker, which I'll show here in just a moment. So as you're aware, if you've joined a webinar in the past, we always do a promotional offer just for your investing your time with us this evening. We're doing a 20% code, which is better than we've been doing lately. So I encourage you to take advantage of it. The code is going to be Endo 20, and that will give you 20% off anything on our website, which is golden-dent.com. We do these deals for 24 hours. That's how we've always done it, and that's how it'll continue this evening. It'll expire November 5th, which is tomorrow, the end of the day. So for ultrasonics, we have a couple solutions here. I know we didn't get time in the presentation to really get into the obturation systems, but you'll see here at the bottom of the screen, this is a really simple ultrasonic activator device called the Endo 3 from Woodpecker. And you'll see on the website, we do have the polymer tips that were mentioned in the presentation. You can go ahead and select each one that you're interested in and go ahead and use it on the Endo 3 ultrasonic device. That's really the cheapest method to get into using some sort of ultrasonic activator device if you're currently not using one. The other way is going to be with this. This is another Woodpecker or DTE device. It's the D600. I know Dr. Nazarian, who's done a lot of our webinars in the past with us, he really likes this for like calcified canals. You can obviously also use it with the ultrasonic tips or the polymer tips that were shown on the webinar this evening. Still also affordable device, just another solution for to use with your endo treatments in your practice. So another thing that we were starting to get into, maybe we'll have to bring the speaker back to get a little bit more into endo motors and apex locators like you mentioned. But we have a wide array of the different Woodpecker endo motors. All of them do have the reciprocating mode for use with wave 1. We have different price points, whether you're doing a lotto endo in your office. We have less expensive ones up to more higher end endo motors, including the new Endo GT Pro, which we'll have here shortly. Endo files, I mean, a lot of different companies have files. We did spend a lot of time sourcing our files. We're very happy with them. We've had them for a number of years now under our GoldenDent Endo brand. So we currently have the Golden 1, which is equivalent of the Wave 1, Golden Taper, which is the equivalent of the Pro Taper, and then we have the V Blue system, which is pretty much the 3 most popular endo file systems. So if you're looking for a good file system to try, or if you're looking for one that's maybe more affordable, these are good products that we have and good endo files that are less expensive but don't really sacrifice the quality. So again, I mentioned at the beginning, we have all these niche products. I just wanted to mention this. This is an interesting product. We've had a lot of interest in this. It's a folding dental dam frame. And so I tried to show it here in the video, or the 2 pictures at the bottom. We didn't discuss this evening, but it's related to endo, obviously. This is a really nice dental dam frame where you can actually, just with a click of a button, it can fold. You can take an x-ray, access the mouth, give the patient a break. It's just a really simple device for using a dental dam that's much cheaper than the typical ones. I shouldn't say much cheaper than the typical ones, more convenient than the typical ones. We also have this is the TFRK broken file retrieval kit. I'm just kind of going through a couple endo related products. I know this was off topic for this evening, but we do have this that's been quite popular too, from Dr. Yoshi Teriuchi. This is the TFRK broken file endo retrieval kit. You really have to watch the video to truly understand how the system works. So real quick, what's new at GoldenDent? I just have a couple more slides here. If you haven't seen, we just launched our new X-Star curing light from Woodpecker. This is the new 12mm lens curing light. There's been some studies done by Dr. Richard Price that show that the curing light is actually very similar in quality to the Velo models at a fraction of the price. So if you're looking for a new curing light, we're really excited about this. We have these in stock now. We have a couple new matrix products I just wanted to mention. Again, totally off topic, but while I have your attention, I wanted to mention them. We do have the Wizard wedges, which I know a lot of people have been looking for these. They are back, being manufactured by the original facility. The wizard wedges are available. We have those. We have our different matrix systems. The Rondium kit is a great retainerless Tupfelmeyer system. And then we recently picked up the Polydentia anterior matrix system, which is something that's also been very popular and worth taking a look at. Lastly, the Vaculux, we just added this to our product line. So if you're currently using Isolite or Dry Shield, it's worth taking a look at. There's some really inexpensive adapters that you can use with your Isolite mouthpieces. They've got some really great lightweight tubing adapters. And then they also have the mouthpieces, which are, in our opinion, a better design. So if you take a look at them online, you'll see what the improvements are over Isolite or Dry Shield. Just to keep moving here, last thing I'll mention is we have our live patient education programs. We've done these for a long time here in Detroit, including an endo for the GP class. Our upcoming dates for our extraction programs, these are live patient programs were just announced recently. So we have all our 2026 dates now up on our website, which is amplifydental.com. And these are live patient classes. So you do the extractions, you do the grafting. I've mentioned this every webinar in the past, so I think everybody's familiar with these. Last but not least, our next webinar is December 9th with Dr. Patrick Rutzer. We're going to talk about an interesting burr and I guess composite type system for shaping the occlusal surface of a tooth that looks like a natural tooth surface. So we're excited to have that one as our last webinar for the year, and look for the registration link in the follow-up email that I'll send following the webinar this evening. So that's it. I'll leave this up and I'll turn it back to Lauren for the questions. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Kurt. Dr. Ramos, we have some questions. Are you ready to tackle some of these?
I think so, yes.
Okay, let's do it.
Just
Go ahead.
Before we start with this, I will encourage you guys to offer the second part of this webinar, because I just saw that Kurt showed the Endo GT. Endo GT is my design motor, and in the Endo GT we have two new patents, the Clear Signal and the Torque Sense, and I encourage you guys to put a second lecture like this one to us to show this very nice motor. I work with this project for the last 3 years, and I'm showing to key opinion leaders, professors all around the whole world, and they are in love with this piece of machine. So if you give me the opportunity of coming back real quick, we can continue this from where I stopped at, exactly this one. The Endo GT is EvoFlex, is not EvoFlux, but anyways. So the name of this is Endo GT. There's the Endo GT and Endo GT Pro. So I will be more than happy to show this motor to you guys, because there's so many good things on this one. It's amazing motor. So just set up another one, and I'll be more than happy to come back and talk about it. Go ahead, Doctor.
We'd love to have you back. Okay, let's do it. So
Yep.
How long should the ultrasonic be used in each canal?
30 seconds each time that you use. So basically, in my technique on the stepwise interoperative activation that from Gianluca Platino, that we use the base of his technique. Each time that I use ultrasonics with continuous irrigation, or even without continuous irrigation, I will use for 30 seconds. So it's not only 30 seconds for each canal, but it's 30 seconds each time that I'm going to use. So remember that I use in between my instrumentation and in my final protocol as well.
Okay. Should the canal be opened to a certain size before using the ultrasonic?
Yes. So when you are doing progressive instrumentation, let's say that you are using reciproc or even wave one. on one of these systems. Reciprocation actually is one of my patents. Reciprocation is my movement as well. So basically, when you are using these files in a progressive way, just follow with the tip. So let's say that you start, like I show in the video, you start with a file, 5 seconds later, you stop and you come with your ultrasonic tip. There's no size, but is the feeling. So when you put the ultrasonic tip, the tip needs to be loose inside the canal. If you pressure too much and you stuck the tip, you have to remove or withdraw the tip a little bit until you free the tip, and then you use for 30 seconds. But eventually, when you finish your instrumentation, ideally is 2504 plus, because the tip is 2502. So if you have a space 2504 or 2504 plus, like 3004, 3504, that is my number, that will be ideal.
Okay. So could you just reiterate why you don't recommend regular bleach that's bought in the stores for irrigation?
Well, because it's not because of concentration, it's because regular bleach from the stores, they are made to stay for a long time available in the supermarket. So what happens is they put stabilizers there, that these stabilizers, they form at the very bottom. If you see at the very bottom of the bottle, of the bleach bottle, you can see it's kind of a little crystals that is forming there. So those little crystals are precipitation of these stabilizers that are chemicals to preserve the concentration for a long time. Remember, this is not for human use. This is for toilets and floor, right? So these little crystals will stop in the solenoid valve of your ultrasonic unit. It's not about corrosion. This is very interesting to say. It's not about corrosion. It's about the solenoid valve. So the solenoid valve has two membranes, and they are very, very close one of the other, right? If these little crystals stay there, the solenoid valve cannot open and close anymore, and then you lose your solenoid valve. So that's why if you are using sodium hypochlorite, use sodium hypochlorite in the reservoir of your D600, for example. That is a great machine, right? So make sure two things: concentration less than 2%. Do not use bleach from the supermarket or industrial bleach that has these stabilizers. And third, and most important, always purge right after you use. So the patient, you finish with your patient, put the still water in the reservoir and purge for 1 minute.
Okay. So asking for clarification, the sodium hypochlorite use, is it only 2%, or you're only doing that for irrigation with the peak tip?
Yes. Or you can use with any other tip. Of course, you can use with metal tips as well. But I myself, and I think that I show very fast. This usually take a little bit more time with my slides, but in a webinar you have to be fast, right? So yes, you can use with metal tips as well. I don't like metal tips because they are not flexible enough, and especially in curved canals, metal tips are very difficult to make all the curvatures properly.
Okay. So the tips that you talked about during the webinar, are these only for specific ultrasonic handles? You know, like some manufacturers like Sorona, they have chairs that have ultrasonic handles built into them. Can they work with that, or is a tip specific for a certain machine, exterior machine?
So the rule of thumb is this: if you have a tip, I will give you one example. So woodpecker make tips for woodpecker devices. They test on woodpecker devices, right? So each device has a different resonance, and this is something that you cannot copy from satellite or from EMS or from cable or whatever, right? So as a good advice is always use the tips from the same manufacturer of your piezo unit. And the reason is that those are calibrated in terms of resonance for that machine. If you can use in other machines, yes. There are two types of threads, S-type, satellite type, and E-type, EMS type. So those threads are different, right? So you have to make sure that what is the type of your piezo? Is it S-type, satellite type? Use the tips for satellite, S-type tips. If your device is EMS type, that is very uncommon here in the United States, but very common outside US. So you have to use E-type of threads. So that said, I truly recommend, honestly recommend, always, not only for the polymer tips or for the E70 connector, but for all tips that you are using for perio, for hygiene, use the same tip, same manufacturer that you are using your piezo. If the manufacturer is woodpecker or DTE, use woodpecker DTE tips. This is my advice.
Okay. This is an interesting question. So, was there a period of time after rotary instrumentation was starting to be used heavily that endodontic outcomes were poorer? And then, if so, did they increase again once ultrasonic and similar irrigation methods were introduced?
We don't have proof of that, right? We don't have any science proved study showing that the rotary got, or engine-driven files got bad results and then good results appeared after the irrigation. Makes a lot of sense to me, honestly. And basically that's the reason that my second slide was showing exactly that, showing the amount of irrigation papers that show up after engine-driven files start to be used more commonly, right? But I don't have, I cannot, I'm not a storyteller, right? I'm not talking about Harry Potter or Star Wars. Everything that I say, I need to be based on some kind of a science proof. And even with good papers, sometimes we make some mistakes. That's why my lecture, you could notice that I try to show as many papers as possible when I talk about something, to make sure that I'm not just telling a story. So I don't have the answer for this question. Makes sense to me though, but I don't have the answer for this question. Maybe. The bottom line is irrigation is way more important than instrumentation. We don't do cleaning and shaping, we shape to clean. So we open the space with our instruments to clean the canal. We don't clean the canal by doing instrumentation. Actually, it's the opposite. When you are doing your instrumentation, you are making a mess inside the canal with the debris.
Yeah,
that's a good question. Very good question.
Yeah, could you, I think there was a specific, you said it was the most affordable ultrasonic system. Do you recall what you had mentioned about that? Which one it was?
Well, I would say that you have two options. I didn't say, and actually it was Kurt, but yes, he's right. So I think that the best option if you want to start this technique is to buy the Endo 3, that one, the Endo 3, with the polymer tips. And just remember that you have to buy the Endo 3 and make sure that it comes with the E70 tip. So the E70 tip is basically the tip for the connector, right? So I showed the connector, I showed the connector in my slides, but is the E70 plus, I like the most the E74, because the E74 goes to all canals, central incisors, lateral incisors, and never, when you buy this, put the E70, put the polymer tip, and put this inside water to make the vibration. Do not do the vibration with the tip dry, because the tip of the tip will melt, right? So never use this tip outside the canal with irrigation, or the canal or dry in front of you. Many people, when buy this machine, they put the tip and they turn on just to see vibrating. First, you are not going to see any vibration because our eyes cannot see the vibration. It's so fast, right? So if you want to see the vibration, put inside a vial with water or something, and then you are going to see some movement there. Do not use dry, please do not use dry. Okay?
Yep, good advice. A couple of questions here about the recording and the CE. Just a reminder, yes, the webinar is recorded. That usually goes out within a day or two. And the CE typically will go out sometimes as early as Friday, usually next week. Nothing you need to do. We register when you logged in, when you logged out. As long as you were here for the majority of the webinar, you'll be sent that CE certificate as well. Okay, another few more clinical questions here. Do you start your ultrasonic sequence prior to achieving working length?
Yes, absolutely yes. So can you see my slides now or no?
We can put it back to your screen if you like. Let's go ahead and put it back there to you.
Very quickly, because this is, yeah. So one of the things that I'm talking about is the E70. This is the E70 that I talked about. Just make sure that comes with the E70, and the polymer tip is the E74. You can use the Endo 3. Yes, absolutely, you can use the Endo 3. And here. So I start with this. I start with my ultrasonification. After I put a number 10 file scouting the canal, I start with this one. The reason that I like to start with this one is the fact that I will clean most of the cervical and middle thirds. And if it is a distal canal, I will, of course, go to the temporary working length because I don't have the working length yet. But I try to use, as you can see, I try to use before to my temporary working length, as you can see in this video, to clean the bulk of the canal.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay. So just to reiterate, the peak tip, which one are you using most frequently? Is it the E70, the 74, and another size?
E74. E74. This is the one that Kurt will kill me because probably he has E71, 72, 73, and 74. But honestly speaking, E74 is the most used one because it's a 25 tip with almost 03 taper, 025, 027 taper, but it's the longest one. So you can use in any cases in molars and canines and central incisors, anything.
Okay. I think this is our last question. What's your recommendation, reciprocating or non-reciprocating?
Both, actually. So quick story about this. The patent on reciprocation is mine, right? So when I did this patent back in 2008, and we put the patent in 2010, my idea was to create reciprocation to any file, to any rotary file. Unfortunately, a big company that we know very well, they like these closed systems, and this is exactly the sequence of my lecture is exactly talking about reciprocation. This is the patent that I'm talking about. So I like to use both. I like to use reciprocation and rotary, and I like to use in a special movement called ATR, automatic torque reciprocation mode, that people unfortunately say automatic torque reverse is not automatic torque reverse, is automatic torque reciprocation. Mainly what I like to do is to start in rotation, but as a pressure a little bit the file in the canal goes to reciprocation, and with reciprocation I can negotiate better the canal, and with rotation I can remove better debris and finalize my instrumentation. So this is the way that I like to do. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to show everything here, and especially with the new motor, the Endo GT that I want to show you guys in the next webinar. Especially with this one, we don't have even to worry about the torque, because there's the torque sense, and the torque sense is an automatic real-time intelligent torque, meaning each time that you put a file inside the canal, the motor will recognize the torque, the ideal torque to the file, work at that very spot. And if you put the file again and the file goes to another spot, the motor will recognize the best torque to that. So this is next chapter, but yes, I like to use rotation and reciprocation at the very same time.
Perfect. And we had a shout out to you from Sue Yang, who was also at University of Sao Paulo around the same time. So she says hi, and we are at the end of our presentation. Anything you'd like to say, Dr. Ramos, before we wrap it up for the night?
Well, I'm very glad to have this opportunity. Thank you very much, you all, Dr. Levine, for being so nice, and especially GoldenDent, Kurt, to provide the opportunity of doing this kind of a event. I wish to have more opportunities. I have a lot of things to talk about. This is just a part of the lecture that I used to do. But thank you very much for this opportunity, and I think that in the future we are coming with this new motor and new toys like the Jet family that will have concomitant irrigation while you're doing instrumentation and other things. Very exciting is coming. I have 5 patents published, but I have more, 12 coming. So, and all them are going to be in the sense of making our lives a little bit easier, more comfortable, more predictable as well. So thank you very much for the opportunity, and I wish all the best for everybody that is with us, all these people that is with us all this time. We have 122 attendees right now. Thank you very much for you all. And just if you have any question, if you have anything to talk with me, be free to talk. My Instagram is endodontia21, endodontia21 or endodontia21. And Kurt has my contacts. If you want to talk with me, just shoot an email to GoldenDent, and they can definitely contact me in terms of anything that you want to know about these techniques.
Well, we want to thank you for sharing your expertise, and I would definitely second the request to Kurt to bring you back, because it seems like we just scratched the surface here, and you got a lot more content. So we would love to have you back at some point in the future. So we thank you, because we know your time is valuable, and this was a great presentation. We had a really good turnout, a ton of super good questions as well. So I like it when it's a lot more interactive like that. As I mentioned, thank you to Kurt and GoldenDent. They have been sponsoring these webinars with me for well over 10 years. They always bring in the top speakers, top content. That's why I think why we get such great turnout, as everyone knows, they're going to get really good continuing education, and you can't beat the price. It's always free, always been free, always will be free. And we do these webinars on a regular basis. I believe the next one is in December. I got to confirm the date. Every one of you who are here this evening will be sent an invitation to the next GoldenDent webinar, which, as I said, is coming up in early December. We thank all of you. We know your time is valuable, and we thank you for continuing to come and support these webinars. We must be doing something right, because we get great turnout always, and we always get a lot of good feedback about the speakers and the content. As a final reminder, the webinar was recorded. The recording should go out in a few days. The CE certificates, there's nothing you need to do. Once you log out, you're done. No quiz or testing like that. Anywhere from about 3 to 7 days from now, you'll start seeing those CE certificates showing up in your inbox, so keep an eye out for that. Thank you all for joining us. Thanks again, Dr. Ramos. Thanks for GoldenDent. And please stay safe and healthy out there, and we'll see you all at our next webinar. Good night, everyone.
Good night.